Welcome to the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission for the month of March. I will begin with the first item of business of call to order and the roll call of RDC members. We will start with introductions to my right.
Good evening, everyone. Elizabeth Lamping. I represent the City Council.
Matthew Kochever, Vice President of the Redevelopment Commission.
Kathy Chappell, Secretary.
James Sigmund, Member.
Okay. I do note that we have a quorum. Moving on to the presentation and approval of minutes of the February 18th, 2021 meeting minutes. Kathy.
Well, you have them in front of you.
I have them in front of me.
We don't read them.
Yes. But okay. We have a copy of the February 18, 2021 meeting minutes. We don't usually read them into the record. I have reviewed the minutes. They look to be in order. I will ask for a motion to approve the February minutes as presented by the Secretary. Do I have a motion?
I'll make said motion to accept our minutes, RDC minutes from February 18, 2021.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes from February 18th, 2021 as presented are approved. Moving on to claims docket approval. I will note that the clerk treasurer is not at this time present, so I will just briefly describe the claims docket. The claims docket is in the amount of $3,312.08 for services by Peters Municipal Consulting for RDC Professional Services, and from Lewis and Capps for legal services for the RDC. Do I have a motion to approve the claims docket?
I make motion.
Do I have a second? Discussion.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, you did second?
second's
Yes.
fine, or discussion, whatever.
Okay. Discussion? I will just note that this appears to be in order and is in the same documentation as previous RDC meetings. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is approved.
There's for signatures.
Yes, 4 signatures, so 2 copies. We'll get that signed really quick. Okay. Moving on to our next item of business, Main Street Outdoor Dining Improvements Update. I will say that I was handed a document that is from Mayor Buckley regarding dining improvements, but this is I've just recently seen this document, so I'm going to turn it over to any other member who may want to present on this, or defer to our council if he knows anything about this. About what this particular item of business is. Sorry, was told to preside over tonight since our president's not here. I just don't have as much information to know how to talk about this in any
That's okay.
good way. So,
Want me
Cassie?
to take it?
Yes, please.
Okay. If you remember, last year we voted and helped the city pour some concrete and fences for some of the businesses downtown. And the mayor is approaching us once again to do the same thing. It originally started out 2 businesses, and he came to me yesterday at work and added a couple more. The first 2 are Mom's. It's a little cafe. I believe the address is 508 Main Street. He wants to concrete, add a fence, and there's a tree there that they would be removing. The other address is 522 O'Gara's. the front area. He would also do the concrete and the fence. He would remove the tree, but keep the street light at that location. The two that he added are not restaurants. One is called Treasure Trove, and the other one is Market on Main Street, 615 and 625. Definitely the concrete, of course, but he's debating about the fence or not. This would be for retail establishment. It has nothing to do at all with food. And he did not discuss any dollar amount with me, but when I talked to Nathan tonight, Nathan said they discussed putting a cap on it at $20,000 from the RDC.
Total for everything?
Or per establishment?
I'm sorry?
Total or per establishment?
I really can't understand you, Rod. I'm sorry.
Total or per establishment?
Total. Nathan gave me the impression total, but he didn't say that. I could text Dennis real quick and see. I can't imagine it, because
Yeah, that's-
our whole bill the last time was, what, $12,000. And that was for
like
the
a
ones we
agree.
did. So I'm sure he's talking about a cap of $20,000 for all four of these.
What does the market do?
I'm sorry?
What does the market do to the?
They are retail gift items, gift shops. That's why he's debating whether they need a fence or not. He's not sure about that. This came up yesterday. He handed me this yesterday.
Was aware of the first two, but not the.
Yeah. So that's all I know about these. I would assume it'd be the same companies that did the, what was it,
Fifth Avenue. Or
Fifth Avenue Bar and Grill. What were the other two? It was Tammy's.
The tea room.
The tea room. There was a third.
Yeah, there's a.
Wasn't it the bakery, which
Yeah.
is no longer there?
Yeah, the New Day Rising.
Yes.
Or, yeah.
I think it was those three.
They're part of the pizza place now, right?
Yes.
I
No,
haven't
that's
seen
where
them-
the pizza place is going in at.
Yeah, supposedly, but I haven't seen them working in there. But, right.
I just don't like to remove trees. Healthy, good
Yeah.
trees. I mean, we work,
Well, he would do that to Moms and O'Gara's.
yeah,
The
we work
trees would.
hard to establish trees because we're a tree city, and then we remove healthy grown, I don't know.
Anyway, I don't know how you want to proceed on this.
Is this similar to, or let me ask this into our attorney. So is essentially to proceed in the same fashion as we did with the projects that the RDC approved last month for, so essentially that we would take a vote tonight to ask our attorney to prepare resolutions
I don't
for everything,
think-
or,
I don't think a resolution.
I was gonna say, why would that be necessary? I don't think,
We own the sidewalks.
okay.
And so we are building out or improving city property as opposed to making improvements to private.
would you like me to text Dennis or Nathan and see if he's talking about 20,000 for all four of these?
Yeah.
I mean,
That
I
would
can
be-
do,
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be
I-
nice to kind of have a little bit more information.
I can't promise you that they'll answer me, but
You might ask, is it possible to do it without removal?
Yes, that would be really nice. If we could do that and not remove a tree.
Is it the front, like where the curbing is, where you like turn into O'Gara's in between Mom's and O'Gara's? Is that the area they're talking about? Do we know that?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I don't know. This was handed to me
Yeah, I don't know.
front
this
area
evening,
with the
so I'm
fence.
sorry, I do not have answers to that.
Mom's front area with the fence, remove a tree.
And you can always table it to the next meeting.
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, help me out here with rules of procedures. Now, no motion has been made. We just essentially introduced the topic. So could I just move on and make sure that the president has this on the agenda for next month? Because I will tell you this, I
Yeah.
personally would like to get more information.
Yeah.
Um,
Go look
so I know what we're doing.
ourselves.
Plus, in addition, want to know, are we asking for $20,000 in total? Or if it's still gonna be these four businesses, $80,000 in total?
Yeah.
On top of understanding what it is, because you mentioned a great thing, are they gonna change it on this side of the building, on this side? I'd like to know
Yes.
more
It'll
about
be
that.
all in front of the buildings, that much I know.
Mhm.
But I don't know why it could possibly be more than 20,000 for all four, because we did those three for 12.
Yeah, I was gonna, yeah, it was pretty cheap, those three. It
I
wasn't,
mean, the only difference would be the tree removal, but that wouldn't be more than $1,000 a tree probably.
I don't know how big
Well,
those trees are.
I've just sent a text to Dennis, but
Well, even invite the businesses to come and kind of give us an idea, you know, so we can meet them, or, I don't know, have a little interaction with them.
Okay. Now, of course, I don't want to move on from business in case anyone wants to make a motion or try to do action on this agenda item. Seeing that there's no one ready to move, I've made a note. I will ask the president to include this on the agenda next month. But there has been good ideas raised. Would like to hear from the businesses. If they can't be here tonight, either during the month, if they want to send the RDC something about
That's a good
what
point.
they're looking for, or if the mayor has any other more information, love to hear from him throughout the before our April meeting. That would be great. I personally would just like to get more information before we do anything. I'm
Okay.
seeing.
Point of interest, would it be possible for you to just read what you have in front of you right now, so we can all hear what you?
Yes, well, of course. Before we move on from that, I will read what I have here. That's not a problem. So this is from Mayor Buckley. It has, well, the first line here is 615 Treasure Trove in ellipses, front area possibly with a fence. Next line is 625 Marketplace on Main Street in ellipses, front area possibly with a fence. Next line, 508 Moms in ellipses, front area with a fence, with an asterisk, remove tree. And 520, next line, excuse me, 522 O'Gara's in ellipses, front area with a fence and with an asterisk, remove trees, keep street light. And after the meeting, if anyone who's here in person would like to review this, happy to show this to you. And we will make sure that you get to see this. It's also a public record, so if you would like to get a copy, I'm happy to oblige, as well as our secretary.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes, please.
In that, so the retail wants fencing, do they plan on putting, retail items on the sidewalk, which is a
Yes.
safety issue?
yes, the fence is, no decision's been made on the fence, but yes. Evidently, it's a place where you take stuff and sell it on consignment. And they're trying to make a place where people can take turns bringing their merchandise out, literally to that concrete area to sell.
With still a right of way for pedestrian traffic?
Right, but I'd have to drive by it and look at the business. I think there'd still be walking space. The concrete would come out further to the street.
isn't there a couple benches out there?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's probably about an 8-foot gap from retail and from the structure to the actual parking curb.
Yeah, that's
why I
as,
asked for, it's fire safety, that's all.
right, that's just as much as I know, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Great questions. And if there's any more, think of them throughout the month. Make sure we ask the business owners, the mayor, anyone who has interest here. So definitely we can make an informed decision next month. I think that is very key. But great questions all around. Is there anything? Yes.
Nathan just answered me. He says 20 grand total. Can't read it. We'll spend a max of 5,000 on each individual project. Great opportunity with warm weather coming on.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, it was 20,000 for all.
Okay. Okay, I will make sure to email the president through our RDC email, so it goes to everyone. Just ask him to place this back on the agenda for April with, and then hopefully we get more information on this. But yeah, agreed. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to our next item of business, which is the RDC Annual Report, presented by Jeff Peters from Peters Municipal Consultants.
Everybody have a copy?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. You have a handful of things that you have to fulfill during the course of the year. One is this annual report, which is a summary of basically your membership, your monies in and out throughout the course of the year, what you accomplished, and the list of parcels that you continue to keep in your allocation areas. The report before you, I would advise that you act on that tonight because it needs to go to the clerk treasurer as your fiscal officer, and he has the responsibility to get that submitted to the DLGF's gateway by April the 15th. The biggest component of your expenditures, as always, is the repayment of principal and interest on your outstanding bonds. Outside of that, you've had some contractual services, I think, were toward your completion of the Greenway project. And your revenue stream was about $727,000 of the income from your tax increment during 2020. At the end of the year, you had about $625,000 in your general operating fund and $240,000 in your debt service reserve fund. Your debt service reserve fund, when you sold the bonds, were set up as a separate amount of cash to be held for the benefit of those bondholders. In the instance that you ever came up short on cash, you had an extra cash source to make those principal and interest payments as they become due. As you now are getting into the final payments for your outstanding bonds, those monies will flow into the general fund and be used to make the last payment as well as part of the second to the last payment. So sometime in 22, we would anticipate, or in 21, that those monies will flow in and start to make debt service payments. Then you'll be without debt and ready for additional projects if you wish. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on your report.
Questions from members?
No?
No? Okay. All right. So as I understand it, we need to approve this tonight. It goes to the clerk treasurer, who has the legal responsibility to file this with the state on the gateway where these reports go to by
April 15th.
April 15th.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Since this is my first term on the RDC, so the one question I have really for the other members is that standard report. This looks like the report from last year and from previous years.
Yes.
Nothing that you all know. Okay. I've read it over. It looks pretty self-explanatory. Personally glad that debt obligations are soon to get paid off. So there's a lot of ideas to have as we've had discussions and made comments about looking at our redevelopment plan and figuring out where we can go for the future. With that, there are no other questions or comments to Jeff Peters. Is there a motion to accept the City of Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission 2020 Annual Report?
I'll make said motion to accept the annual report as presented by Mr. Peters.
There's a second.
Second the motion.
Second? Okay. Discussion on the motion. I'll just like to say I'd like to thank Jeff Peters and Peters Municipal Consultants for putting together this report. We appreciate the work you do for us.
Absolutely.
Hearing no other comments or questions on the motion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Bob, question for you. Is this something that Nathan can, because if I understand from looking at the end of the report before we get into the parcel listings, there is a present. So will I sign it since I presided over the meeting, or is this something that Nathan can sign, like tomorrow, we get over to the clerk treasurer? How does this work when the actual president is not presiding over?
Signatures, Jeff, I think I only put one on there. You could cross it out and put, yeah,
Is there anyone on the board see any objection of Nathan signing this? Getting him a copy? Good?
I'm good.
Can you see him in the next couple of days?
I can see him tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Do we need just one copy signed?
I would sign two. if you
Two?
could.
Two. Okay.
Okay.
Or Jeff, do you need one too? Sign?
Okay. All right. That's great. Yeah, as soon as he gets it signed, go over to the clerk treasurer's office to get that completed. Okay. All right. Our next item of business is a presentation by Deborah. I'm going to pronounce Kuntz. Thank you. All right. From Core Planning Strategies LLC concerning the firm's project management services for municipal development and redevelopment projects. So, Deborah, if you'd like to take the podium, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to share with you tonight. With me is Jason Larrison, one of our senior project managers, and you're going to hear from him in a few minutes as well. So I own Core Planning Strategies and have for 9 years. I started the business 9 years ago when I realized that there were a lot of cities, towns, universities, schools who, when they were thinking about development or they were thinking about capital projects and their needs, is that sometimes they didn't have enough staff or the right staff to really move those projects forward. So I started this company to fill that need when it's there. And so we work with 8 different municipalities around the state of Indiana. We also work in education, so in K-12 and university and healthcare. And we spend a lot of our time helping clients make those capital projects or their investments in their communities happen. We are particularly interested in projects that are transformational. That could be transferring a whole community, right? And I know you've got has had some questions about some properties that haven't redeveloped, right? And are interested in some ideas on that. And at the request of the mayor and Bob, we actually put some ideas together for you for that tonight. And so we'll give you a chance to hear some ideas specifically about redevelopment of those properties. We are, in many ways, if you think about us like we're an outsourced company. We're an outsourced almost staffing, but we're in project management. So if you think about if you outsource your IT, you may or may not hear, but you have businesses you know who probably do that. We are that outsourced option, is that when you need us, we are there for you. When you don't need us, then we are not on your payroll. And so that is really one of the value propositions with a company like ours is you take advantage of it when you need it, but you don't have to all the time. So maybe just to give you a sense of some of the other municipalities that we work with, we are working with the city of Bloomington, Columbus, Lafayette, West Lafayette, Indianapolis, Carmel, Fortville, Clarksville, and I'm probably missing one. I'm trying to think I'm missing one. I should have wrote them all down. So, and we do spend quite a bit of time with clients who are working on redevelopment. Maybe just to elaborate a little bit on, to give you an example of that. So the city of Bloomington right now is looking at redeveloping about 26 acres, which is just a couple miles from their downtown, right along their trail project. And so some of that property is theirs right now, but it will become available for redevelopment once the IU Health Hospital moves into their new hospital. And so we've been working with Bloomington for a couple of years now on some parking garages and street work, but they've now hired us to be their project manager for the redevelopment of those 26 acres and really manage that work. So initially it's helping to bring developers to their front door so that they know there are opportunities and try to bring the people who can bring the money to the community there in front of them. We also then are helping them make the properties as developable as possible. And Jason's going to speak a little bit to that, but how do you make it so that it's very enticing property from a developer's perspective so that they can make their numbers work as well? And so there's some strategies to that. There's some thinking behind that. It does take some public money. to make sure that it's going to be the right deal, but it doesn't always. And so making properties as developable, if that's a word, as possible is very important, and is one of those things that we advise on. So I think while it's not 26 acres, I think you're looking at, those are the kinds of things that we do there. We also are project managers for very distinct projects, like we are the project manager for the city of Lafayette as they're building their new police station. So that's another example. We are just starting on the Carmel Police Station as well. So in addition to that, we're helping to renovate Main Street in Fortville to make it possible for their businesses to get, that additional parking and better streets and really just improve their Main Street. We're helping in Clarksville to improve their Main Street, but theirs is really less about the streetscape, although that's a piece of it. It's more about creating a better roadway and pathway so that development can happen on either side of that Main Street right there down by the river. So just to give you a flavor of some of the other clients that we work with, I want to, at this time, turn it over to Jason and have him talk a little bit about some of the properties that we have looked at. I will say that this is not based on any market data. Obviously, this is not even based with really having any conversation with the city staff or its leadership. But you asked for some ideas, and so we said, let's give them some ideas and some things to think about. So Jason's gonna, I know in your packet we gave you kind of a glimpse of one, but he's gonna share a handout here, and I'm gonna let him talk through this because he's done the research and he's kind of generated the ideas. It's very likely that none of these are the perfect solution because we like to think that this kind of planning really is grounded in market data. And we use people like Courtney Zag, who has a long history of the Thomas P. Miller Company, when we do market studies and really utilize her economic development and background in market studies. She's worked with Plainfield and McCordsville and Noblesville, right, to help them figure out where they should do that development and really make it a data-based process. So what you have, I want to be really clear about tonight, what you have is not based in full data yet because we're not working with you yet, but we did want to at least throw out some ideas, and I'm going to turn this over to Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Again, my name is Jason Larrison. I'm Senior Project Manager at Core Planning Strategies. I've been with Core for 3 years. Prior to that, I spent 17 years in both city and state government as an architect, working a lot with communities, especially in my roles with municipal government. So when the question was asked, what thoughts do we have about the properties? First off, I did visit the properties. I live just a couple miles north of Beech Grove, so I drive down Emerson quite frequently and have been in your guys' downtown quite a bit. So what you have, I think the first thing that you've identified four vacant buildings, and one of the things that I'd like to.
If I may just.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Here, because they're not aware of how your invitation came to be.
Okay.
There was an RFP, it's my understanding, put out for the police station. Deborah contacted the mayor and talked with him, and he, I think, discussed with her, I'm not sure, he said maybe this would be something that the RDC should hear a presentation because maybe they could help in the Safeway, Dairy Queen, that area there just west of the hospital. And so, and the figures on acreage and all of that are figures that my firm pulled out of the real estate websites and how much acres and square footage of the buildings and so on.
Okay. Thank you. So with the properties, which are, as mentioned, the former Marsh Safeway, Dairy Queen, the Starbucks building, and the professional office building, taking a look at those, one of the first things that came to mind is you've got a collection of properties that are in close proximity with a little bit of gaps there. So the first thought that came to mind was to think a little bit beyond those sites, recognizing that those are sites that are readily available right now, but what does the future look like, especially for that intersection there at Albany and 17th Avenue. So when I say that, I'm thinking about the Indiana Members Credit Union as well as the Walgreens. Not saying that, you know, you don't want those businesses there, but just thinking about what it means to redevelop in that particular intersection. Before we responded with the questions and these diagrams, I took a look at some of the existing plans that Marion County has, the comprehensive plan, looking at some of the suggestions that they have for those particular parcels. The two typologies that the plan suggests, one is called traditional neighborhood. They have that in particular for the professional office building location. Traditional neighborhood really just speaks to having a variety of housing types to sustain the residents through the different steps of their life. And then the other typology is village mixed use, which is exactly what it says. It's a bit of residential and it's a bit of neighborhood serving businesses. And that's geared particularly towards the remainder of the properties, the former Marsh, the Dairy Queen, and the Starbucks. So in thinking about that and looking at the other parcels nearby, you know, the thought is what happens if you start to grow and expand that? What does that start to do in terms of the layout? And what you can see is basically we've created this, it's pretty much the same concept, but in concepts 2 and 3, what you can see is you've got 5 streets that basically all converge together, creating kind of a different little parcel where the Starbucks is, which doesn't make it the most flexible of parcels to work with. So if the streets remained as they were, you know, that little parcel may actually serve the community better as some sort of public space. Little plaza, little garden, utilize the side streets on a temporary basis to do farmers markets or other events, but to have some sort of gathering space in the middle of this part of the community. If you wanted to expand on that, if you did want to develop on that parcel, if you were to look at closing a portion of either Churchman or 18th Avenue, you can see that that smaller parcel then is able to connect either with the professional office building parcel to the north or with the Walgreens parcel off to the west. And that just provides for more opportunity, more developable. It is hard to say. Opportunity for that particular parcel. So these, again, these are notions, right? The suggestion is to incorporate what, let me back up again, sorry. One of the first steps when it comes to projects like these that I would suggest is community involvement, okay? I could stand up here and give you a million different ideas, and I'm sure a lot of people could. The great thing about community involvement is that you're able to receive a number of different ideas and start to pull them together to see what the group mind comes up with in terms of what is best. Obviously, for this little exercise, didn't have the opportunity to survey the entire community. Did reach out to a few people, both here in Beech Grove, as well as folks that have a knowledge of development needs in Marion County. The common theme was talking about the lifespan of a resident and the housing opportunities that are afforded to them. Beech Grove is rich in single-family housing. It's absolutely beautiful and wonderful what you have here. There's a couple of places where it feels like that maybe there's room for growth. One is the the young adult leaving the family home, either because they're ready to get out of mom and dad's house, or they're coming back after graduating from college and they're looking for someplace else. So that's where some multifamily residential with a focus on smaller families, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, maybe, that's a gap that could be filled. The other end is when it comes to senior housing, when residents are ready to be done with taking care of their house and their lawn and everything that comes with it. We can look, you could look at independent housing, townhouses, duplexes, things like that, and then that transition to an apartment style living. So to help fill those gaps, those were the initial things that were identified with the people that I talked to. Again, these are all things to take to the community to identify what else that they see, right? The notion of a plaza space, maybe that hits, maybe it doesn't. You know, I know that you have park spaces, you've got the trail system, you know, so there might be less need for that. But when we talk about things like mixed use, what are those other functions that would come in handy at this intersection? I know that it's a vacant grocery store. In my mind, I believe the closest grocery stores are further down on Emerson, right? So what are those opportunities to find a retail that could fit into this neighborhood and be successful? So the stakeholder outreach, gaining ideas, most importantly, gaining buy-in. Again, anyone can stand up here at a podium and at a microphone and say, this is what we should do. But if you don't have your constituents buying in, it's going to be an uphill climb. And if they're not buying in, it's probably not going to be nearly as successful. The other thing up front that you would want to make sure you do is your due diligence about the sites themselves. Not knowing the history, if there has been dry cleaners or gas stations or other things that could create soil contamination issues, as well as thinking about the utilities that are coming through there. Is there sufficient water, stormwater, sanitary? And then the last part for you as redevelopment commission members and the city at large is to think about what exactly do you want to have as a role in this redevelopment. You know, and again, you have a number of different opportunities where it can be very hands-on, where the city or the redevelopment commission attempts to purchase some properties to then have that final control and be able to say what's going on. That's usually much more cash forward. You know, it requires more dollars. The other end is identifying ways that you can provide incentives to developers, to property owners, to want to to encourage them to make these different moves, or even encourage them to bring in a certain type of retailer. It makes no guarantees in that situation, but it also doesn't cost you quite as much. So there's you know, a wide spectrum. You have obviously these properties are covered by TIF district, so you have access to dollars through there, which is great. Hearing that your guys are about ready to clear off your bond debt, obviously there's opportunities there. We know that we've had conversations again talking about the notion of other municipal buildings, spaces. Nothing says that they can't play a role in here, but we're just, again, when you talk to the community, you know, that's a great way to find out does it make sense to have something like a police station here, or would the community prefer to see a grocery here or other services, community services, youth services? There's a number of different ways you can go. But really, I think when it comes down to it, and this is the sort of work that we do, is having that conversation with the community. We've done this in a number of communities that are looking at redevelopment. A couple of my projects right now are all about engaging with the community and leading the project for them, to make sure that it is what they want. So I believe that covers where we would suggest going next with these notions. Deb?
Well, I think maybe just in closing, you know, thanks for the opportunity to introduce our company to you.
Sure.
Hopefully some of these ideas have generated some new thoughts or some ideas, maybe regenerated ideas that you've talked about before in slightly different ways. And so we'd love an opportunity to move forward and at least have a conversation about if there's an opportunity that we can help you move your community forward. So thanks for the opportunity.
As you gave your presentation, the things I think about in that area, because I live there and I talk to people walking all the time. The bus line is right there, the bus line. And then you got a church and a school.
Yeah,
And that church
do.
and school has been there, I mean, it's established, I don't know the exact date, history, timeline. We've got the Greenway.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the plaza space, and the residents in that area are just excited as they can be. But every time I ask anyone about the food, like a shopping, it's Aldi's. How do you get the for Aldi's? How do you get them to come into your community? I've had people write letters to them.
Yeah.
How do you get them to kind of like buy in?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you get them to come and look and buy in?
Yeah, so, like the big Targets of the world and the Aldis,
Yeah.
right, they all have developers who are out finding sites for them, and they have a certain set of criteria that they want to fill. So the key is getting them to share with us, right, what it
Yeah.
is they're really looking for, and how do we get them to look at that site. So it is a lot of courting, it's a lot of, talking to them, but it's not usually going directly to Aldi's, it's usually they have other people
Yes.
that are looking
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
So
And
that
we've
would be
got
the key
that
to it.
connection, and I've had, I've had people write them a letter.
Yeah.
I think the mayor's been, but everybody says, I would love an Aldi's there.
Yeah.
I would love an Aldi's. Because on Keystone, you've got the Walmart neighborhood store, so that's not too far.
Right.
But then you've got the nursing home there with the elderly, small resident, and they want to walk. They want to have that community. I can just take a quick walk and go
Walkable
over and grab a
communities,
few,
that's right.
my produce and and have that. So.
Yeah.
So I just, those are the things, the bus line, the Church of the Greenway, that just kind of, all those selling points that could maybe incentivize somebody.
That's right.
somebody's
That's what
interest.
brings our quality of life, right?
Okay,
Is
yeah.
because those are the things that we look for
And
in the
of course
places we want to be.
And then we've got, the hospital still has a presence there because the visiting nurse is there. We've got all the visiting nurses there. They come back to the office there. They want to walk and get some activity, get some exercise, during a lunch break or whatever. Yeah.
Liz's IT is there too.
Yes, mm-hmm.
St. Francis's IT is still there.
Well, as far as, and I know above I think that there'll be offices up, above the parking garage. That'll be, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's IT for sure. Visiting nurses there where IT used to be. That's all visiting nurse. But above the parking garage, that, I don't know if that's like billing and some type of, I don't know, it's office. I'm not sure exactly what all occupies that space. Yeah. But thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions, comments? Well, I obviously, always as the next thing is that I like to know what next steps would be, with also an addition of what do we as a redevelopment commission need to read or learn about for this, this particular district, but also about core and what is the best place that we can use their services. Now, I will tell you, my day job, I am an attorney at the State Election Division. Part of our responsibility is to maintain the statewide voter registration database, which we use a private consultant as our manager. They are our go-between between us and the vendor that builds and maintains the system, because none of the people in our offices are computer technicians. 3 of them are lawyers. We know the law. We don't know computers that whole much. But I say that to just give the analogy of, it's like, I want to be able to understand what we're thinking of, what our relationship with core, if we engage in their services, what those can be. But at the same time, making sure that we have we build a plan for that area that both has buy-in from the members of that in those neighborhoods, which I feel is that they're going to get the primary use out of it. It is for their benefit first, then followed by the benefit for us and the rest of the city. As if just using Liz's example of, can Aldi's go there, and can we help spur that along? That's great for everyone there, because Aldi's is a great store to shop at, but also as a person who lives on the southern end of the city. I love Aldi's. I would like to have one that would be definitely closer, and so that would benefit the other folks in the city who are not from that area.
Good Angel store.
Yes.
Yes.
So, as well as on top of what is already being used there, making sure that we don't radically change what that part is. I know there is senior housing already located there. There is another senior housing that's owned by one of the churches that's farther north, maybe just right outside of our city limits on 17th.
The nursing home there, they have the Beech Grove, it's the Beech Grove Meadows, they have their cottage homes there. And those are people that kind of come in from all over, the cottage homes, the residents, they come from all over the country. I've been walking through there, and there's people from just all over the country that
Wow.
come and find that place to live.
That's amazing.
The other place that you're talking about further down on
That's the condos,
Sherman,
ain't
is
it?
that, what is the name of that? It's an,
Bainley Park or something like
but
that?
it's not related to a church or anything.
No,
It's
no,
separate,
it's a
yeah.
private, they're
private
only
park.
building, ain't it like 10?
I forget how many.
Yeah, it's
how
like,
many
I don't know, it's
different-
like 10 condos
Yeah,
or
it's,
something.
okay, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Matt, I think this sort of gives rise again to our need to have a work session,
Yeah.
ongoing work session on a Saturday,
Mhm.
where we look at our old plan and look at the few amendments that over the years we've done, and sort of see what your current vision is for
Yeah.
various parts of Beech Grove, including, and maybe high priority there, but there's other areas as well. Attack that maybe first, and then talk about more specific, focusing in on is core,
Okay.
can they add value to that
Okay.
ability to redevelop whatever the vision.
And that actually leads me to a question I'd like to ask Core, is that if we go down that process and do you have the ability, or have you ever done services for municipality or redevelopment commission in multiple areas? So we like what you do.
couple different
We think, yes,
parts of
we,
the city?
here in this TIF district, here in this other redevelopment district, is that something you're able to do as maybe a holistic project for one municipality is
sure.
working on various areas? Is that something that?
Absolutely. Every municipality is a little bit different in terms of how they contract with us. So we have a municipality that they just want to call us when they need us. So they have an hourly contract in place, and it's got a max amount to it, and they call us when they need us. We have another client who says, I want you to work on these 3 projects, on these 3 sites, and these 3 areas of the city, and here is the fee that's going to be associated with each one, and here's what we want you to do, right? So it really is kind of up to you, and we would work together to figure out what's going to be the best for you. I think the work session is what I had in mind too, so I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that Bob say that. One of the things I would challenge you to think about before you have your work session is, what's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
Right? So before you come up with the solution and start prioritizing, I would try to think about, what is the problem you're trying to solve in Beech Grove? And particularly when you look at all of the areas, you have competing priorities. And I think that's what you're hearing today, right? Is how could we possibly prioritize one area over the other? And yet we all know that there's never enough money to go around to do everything at one time. So do you do a little bit in several areas, or do you do more in one area? Those are some of the things that you'll have to grapple with. But if you can think about, what is it that you're trying to what's the problem you're trying to solve, and then how are you going to get there? The other caution I would have as you think about in the work session is, what's the criteria by which you're going to make that decision of how do you prioritize? It's a very, very difficult thing to do for every community.
Yeah.
You are not alone. And so is there some criteria that may help you identify that priority? Otherwise, it's right, what Elizabeth wants and what Kathy, right? You each have your own groups that you want to represent in that. So just a few thoughts on how you might think about going into that work session and revisiting what you have. Celebrating the successes that you've had is a very important step in that process, but also is saying, okay, but what parts of our plan haven't we accomplished yet, and where do we need to, or maybe there may be areas of the plan that weren't really envisioned at that time, and you need to think about those as well. So just a few insights to think about as you step into that conversation.
Because I know just exactly what you and Kathy, we can all attest to that we focused on Main Street. We had so much focus on Main Street for a good long period of time, and now
yeah.
we see, and we still have input and concern and helpful assistance with businesses on Main Street, but now it's time to kind of push out a little bit, and then take advantage of that connection with the community.
Yeah.
That place on 17th Avenue is called Bailey Park. Bailey Park of 17th Avenue. Actually took a picture of while I was walking one day. And it's senior, I can't read it all, senior something housing,
55 and up.
age restricted.
Yes,
Okay.
55 and up. Yes.
Okay.
It looks like it's going to be nice down there when they get started.
Any other questions for core strategies?
Can I ask one question, kind of the group?
Yeah.
Was anybody here when the redevelopment commission did a study exercise where they had all the stakeholders in this room with the people from IU?
I was.
Okay, you remember that?
I was Frank from IU.
Yeah. And you know, kind of piggybacks on what you were talking about of trying to make those decisions and those priorities. And the stakeholders in the room, you know, all came up with different ideas of, you know, what should we do, where should we spend our money, and they had different poster boards around the room of what those ideas were, and then everyone was given a list of, or a set of dots.
Dots.
You know, A, B,
Very
C, and D, where are my priorities? And actually went through that, and that was part of the development process of the plan that they went. And I sat in here and listened and ate the donuts, I didn't vote. But, it was a really neat exercise to watch and to see the community and all the ideas that came out, and then to see that refined into some certain things that I assume made it into the plan at that point in time. I don't remember.
May have been one of those.
Okay.
I thought the Greenway was part of that, actually.
So that's where a facilitated process, right? So we actually do that with our clients as well, so if that's something you need help with. But I think that's where it allows you to sit back and be an active participant without having to lead it. And so it's something else to think about. But yeah, that a facilitated process so that you can get to the end of the day and say, okay, we've seen what we've done. We have new ideas. We have ideas that were old ideas that we're bringing back forward. But we also have the right stakeholders in the room that can give the input that you're looking for. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up and
It's
reminding.
exciting to hear you.
Yeah.
Of course, we all work full-time and we scurry around to get ready for a meeting and before you know it, it's another month.
I yeah, understand.
And you might well need more than one work session.
Yes.
Based on all the information you gave us before the meeting, plus the manual that's at home, plus the looking back at a plan that, again, as I said last meeting, was developed when I was still in college, yes, we probably will need more than one meeting. I will agree with that statement. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, thank you.
With that, Deb, Jason, thank you for your presentation this evening. And for the materials, we will be looking at them and referring back to them often, and you will hear from us when we move a little bit further down the process if we can use your services. But we thank you for coming
Excellent.
this evening.
Thank you very much.
And
Have a nice evening.
I would guess your website, check out your website,
Yes,
right?
check out our website.
out
Yeah,
your
we're
website.
definitely online, so
Okay.
lots of places. And even on our social media sites, we
Good.
share a lot of what
Perfect.
our projects,
We can
what our
learn a
other
lot
clients are
from
doing.
what you've done from the community. You have
Absolutely.
business cards by any chance?
I do.
And by the way, the questions that were shared with you and the answers, the questions, Brian Scotts in our office and I put that together of what we thought would
Thank you so much.
give rise to
Thank you.
responses to the approach, the possibilities.
Thank you.
And ideas about that particular area.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's the area that the mayor wanted me to reach out to Deb after she contacted him to see if she could make a presentation that might shed some light on what might be done.
Good.
All right, moving on to our last item here, public comment. We'll offer any folks here in the audience, if you'd like to make public comment. I don't know if the recording can hear you from your chair. If you're welcome to step up to the podium. Just ask name and whereabouts in the city you're from. I'm only guessing because that's how the city council does it, but wish to make comments, the floor is open.
Can I just ask a question?
Please.
Yeah.
Consulting, is that above ground, or do you do consulting underground as well? Both. Thank you.
Any others for public comments? Also, since we're getting towards the end of our agenda, members of the RDC?
Yes, I have a question. Red could probably answer this. Our workshop that we're talking about doing on the Saturday, there's been some people from the public has approached me. Are they allowed to come?
They're allowed to come, they're not allowed to input at this point, or well, it's up to you. But I think you need to talk among yourselves
Yeah.
Okay.
first, and then a subsequent where you take
Oh, no, I agree, I mean, but
I see
they,
it as, you've got this old plan, what has been accomplished, what hasn't, do you still, is it,
they were, if they get interested in later on
It's a
joining the
pub-
RDC, they might have an idea of what we can do and what we can't do already before they join. That's why they were inquiring into it.
you know, it's a public meeting.
Okay.
It's just not a for vote meeting, and in some cases, depending on the commission, they can decide they're gonna allow input or wait to a subsequent meeting where, you know, I see the first one kind of analyzing where you are.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's up to you. I wanted to make one other comment. Brian, could you stand up? Brian Stotts is in our office, and he's gonna be working with me. Alex accepted a position, some of you know Alex, with the Attorney General's office. Brian was with our firm for 11 years, well before I got there, then went for 16 years as in-house counsel for the Children's Museum.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Helped them develop some of their properties and improvements in that position.
and I apologize, the last name?
Stotts, S-T-A-T-Z.
Very good. And then if any email, pool connection or the,
Yeah,
you would
take
get,
Alex out and.
he would get, yeah, okay.
Brian.
Brian, attorney to attorney, can I ask where you went to law school?
Michigan.
Michigan, okay. I'm always looking for more people who went to my alma mater in Valpo. They're out there somewhere. A lot of them are judges, but just had to know.
Maybe you know somebody.
It's nice to meet you, and we look forward to seeing you at meetings whenever we need you, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you forward your email address to the RDC? Thank you. Welcome.
All right. I will second the comments on that we must, I think it's a must, we must have public input.
Yes.
When we get to the time of looking at updating our plan, definitely from those in the specific communities where there are TIF districts, where we have redevelopment districts, as well as from everyone in the city, since we're all interconnected. Again, my thoughts are is that, you know, we're an excluded city, we're locked in on all sides by Indianapolis. We can't expand out, so we gotta use our property, the things that we have, the best that we can. And the best people who know that are those who live in
Yes.
the neighborhood.
Yes,
That's my whole thing.
And
I agree.
There was some email traffic on the RDC site that maybe April 24th. Was that confirmed, or is that still?
That's not been confirmed, but that's the suggested day.
I think that's the weekend I'm out of town. I'm out of
Uh-oh.
Oh, yes, I think you may have been.
Yeah, any other day, any other week, I'm perfectly fine, but
Okay.
that weekend I'm out of town.
Maybe Kathy could set down another set of possibilities.
I think I'm pretty wide open in May.
Other than that weekend? Okay.
You said May, you're.
Yeah, May I'm open, other than Memorial Day weekend, we're going out of town.
I think May would probably be a little bit better.
At this present time, all Saturdays in May are good for me.
Okay.
But yeah,
Good for
I
me.
would definitely say let's get that, let's get it, we'll email, make sure we all lock in a day, and let's get it on the
Okay.
calendar.
Well, I'm supposed to contact Nathan when I get home, so I'll mention that May seems to be a little bit better for us,
Yes, it works for me.
except perhaps Memorial Weekend.
In the meantime, I think, yes, sir,
I have a request for information.
yes.
Last RDC meeting, I believe you guys approved 2 projects. One was for paving Main Street, one was for changing lights from incandescent lights to LED lights. It seemed that the legal staff was suggesting that somehow that fit the description of construction instead of maintenance. And repaving a road is a construction project, not a maintenance project. And it might also be a construction project, not a maintenance project. I'd like to request, ask Steve, what is the definition that is used to justify that as a construction project?
Not necessarily construction, redevelopment.
Matthew. Robert, can you stand up to the,
Yes.
if
for
you
the-
don't
that one,
stand up
can we
there,
go
I
to the
can't
podium?
catch it, and neither can
What is,
can-
what am I looking at?
Tim. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
the statute doesn't say construction, it talks about redevelopment. And I know that on roads, when you scrape everything off, that's probably a gray area. But at least, I think it's the position of the redevelopment commission that that is an appropriate redevelopment. But again, we can go back and forth on that one. We aren't just switching out bulbs, we're putting in a new system in terms of the lighting. But the term is redevelopment, not construction.
Well, the question is maintenance versus construction.
Yeah.
The question isn't redevelopment. Of course, everything is redevelopment. Anything is redevelopment. The question is it a maintenance of redevelopment or is it construction of redevelopment? And it seemed that you were suggesting that it was construction, not maintenance.
Yes, it was my position, it's more than maintenance. If you're sealing it, that's maintenance. If you're filling potholes, that's maintenance. But if you're milling it down, you're essentially reconstructing. That's my opinion. So.
Is there somewhere that?
No, there's not. There's no definition. So.
I'll just weigh in, I know I'm not being asked, but I'll just weigh in, work with other, those 8 other communities, is they do reconstruction of roads all the time with redevelopment, that's the common practice.
Yeah, I can tell you it's the common practice, and the whole maintenance argument came up in a court decision, not so much because of the statute. State Board of Accounts had an audit exception for the city of Munster because I think they were doing shrubberies and tree work and stuff in the parks, in Munster parks. So, it wasn't a road case, so it didn't answer that question.
Well, maybe the real heart of the matter then is, isn't it the objective, the mission of the RDC to create projects that enhance the tax of the economic development that creates tax back into the system? Isn't that the mission of the RDC?
Well, certainly
That
that's
is
one of the
part of it.
the missions. But if things go downhill, if you've got really bad roads, if the streets aren't safe because of other things, then that affects who might bring a business in. It affects who might leave your community. So I think those things are related. But that's my legal opinion. I mean, and one of the things in the old plan was that we needed good roads and safe streets. You can obviously, if you can bring in a business that brings in a lot of employment and help bring the infrastructure for that, that's great, and that's a great use of the funds. But I don't think that means we can't use them so that your roads don't go totally downhill and you're just doing patchwork, which this is more than patchwork. And we're putting in ADA compliant ramps, and we're doing some other things as well as a part of that.
Can I ask this, because these are questions, and I'm being relatively new to the board and understanding the law that it is in certain areas either not defined or is liberally construed to give the RDC more authority to conduct its mission. But can the RDC essentially, either in its plan or whatever document you use to guide its business or its mission, whatever term you want to use, could it create for itself I'll use the term that's used mostly, I find case law, that bright line of, we will do this. We consider this falls under everything.
Yeah, we could do that in our plan.
But this doesn't fall under anything. We will not consider
follow our
it.
plan, as long as at least arguably our plan is consistent with the statute. Yes, we could say, we're not gonna do these kind of projects that are,
Okay.
what we're talking about, or we are.
Yeah, because just to answer the comments, and then looking from last week and the comments that you gave on there is that, what is that, where is it when we fall into that it is things that we can do, that this is construction, and it is within our mission, and what is maintenance, and there is, I'm perceiving different.
is maintenance, at least after the first time. Mowing the lawn and cutting the trees, you know, that's maintenance, for
Well,
example.
What I went off was the basketball court last year. We deemed that milling the basketball court was maintenance and not construction, you know, so we couldn't do it. Milling's milling. I mean, whether it's a basketball court or a city street.
Although part of the reason you didn't do it, I mean, some of you thought that it was maintenance and some of you didn't. Some of you didn't think it would solve the problem because.
Well, no, I agree with
The water.
that, yes, I agree with that too. That wasn't, I mean, yeah.
So essentially, what I'm saying is that my thoughts are is that we're seeing a difference of opinion on this project, either given previous looking at it from previous times that maybe certain things were done that were similar. The statute being, I'm not going to say unclear, but essentially being very broad in our powers, and then maybe our comprehensive plan. Definitely, as we said, needs to be updated. Looking at that one, I think those are all.
Specify that, you know,
Yeah.
we are or we are not going to do any more of those type of projects.
I like just to add on there is that I definitely as an attorney that practices sometimes a very complicated part of the law. I like clarity myself.
Yes.
I like to know we will do this, we will not do that. So if we have ambiguity there, I want to. As much as we can without handcuffing us or thinking of handcuffing any future boards, you know, figuring out this is what we will do, this is what we will not do. So those are just my comments on there. But yes,
The
one more.
suggestion I would make that would, I think, help you to help us, would just to have more transparency in what it is that you're suggesting that you're gonna spend our money on. For instance, I never heard where the light bulbs were gonna be changed at. Is that in a tip zone or not? Which tip area is it at? How many light bulbs is it? I mean, is it baluster changing and light bulbs? I keep hearing it called the light bulb project, but no one ever talked about where it's at, when it's gonna be in, how many light bulbs is it? I mean, it's just this, it creates distrust when we don't understand what it is you're doing. And so it's a transparency thing. I'll give you the second part of it that also is a lack of transparency and needs to be fixed. Did you get 3 quotes on it? Who were those quotes from? How do we know who won the bid? I mean, we never get to hear any of that, and so there's no transparency, which creates a lot of questions in the community about who you guys are and what you're doing with our money.
My understanding that the lighting is being put in by IPL.
Right, and the
Yes.
city council had, I mean, you can go back and find those meetings. The city council did a presentation about the new light bulb exchange. They actually brought the actual new light bulb, whatever, the lighting system, so we could all see it. So yeah, that was all clearly addressed in the city council and was voted.
But this isn't the city council.
Right, but that's an extension, that was an extension from that.
We're a department of the
Yeah.
city as well.
Right, and that was, yeah.
But to answer like your comment specifically is that I'm only speaking for myself as a member here is that I do not want to put into the mind of my fellow neighbors and the residents here in Beech Grove of that distrust. And so what I would like to know and like to have a conversation after this meeting is that what do you need from me specifically as a member? What do you expect from us in between meetings, at meetings? And then what I would like from you is that what is your expectation? How's the best way we can communicate so that you know what we know, because this is all public information, in my opinion, but also to make sure you understand where your tax dollars and where your tax dollars and where everyone's tax dollars are going to. But essentially, we answer your concerns and your expectations, and so I can better do what I need to do to serve you all on this board while in this term for this year.
I'll just say this, sort of saying it openly to everybody, not just you. We can talk one-on-one, but, I mean, just provide the public the details that you would expect to have. What is the scope of work? When is the scope of work gonna be done? How is it being done? I don't go to the city council meeting, so I'm not asking the city council. I'm asking you as the RDC who's voting on it. What is the scope of the project? How much is it? Who bid on it? How's it gonna get done? When's it gonna get done? Where is it gonna get done? I mean, just answer the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why. That would be a great start that we never hear.
Often when the RDC is asked to fund the project, it's cost sharing with the city 50/50. Many of our projects are structured that way, not all of them. And if you agree that you're willing to pay X, there's still a bid process that happens afterwards. It doesn't happen at the time you make that initial decision. And that's generally handled through our Department of Public Works.
Doesn't the Department of Public Works grade every one of the streets, and then they get money to do the streets?
It's a variety. Some of them is from DOT money, some of them is totally local money. But the mayor comes to the RDC and says, are you willing to pay X towards this project? It's normally the way we're approached.
These are great comments. Definitely want to make sure that if there's felt by the residents here in the city that they're not getting the information, that they're not seeing us discuss this information, that we should fix that. But I would also ask any residents that you feel that you don't have information or you have a question on a project or what we're doing to email that RDC account that goes to all of us individually. Just so that we know, or again, speaking for myself, so I know, what are you looking for? What you feel that we are deficient in, so we can answer those questions. For myself, being the newest member of this board here, I do want to make sure that those who do want to know what we're doing and what those particulars are that have been raised, that they get those answers. I don't know what I don't know, and so I do not know what to give you if you feel that we're missing something. But as I will say, those are great comments. Definitely things that we can work on, and that I will work on personally while I'm on this commission. But with that, is there any other comments?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, we have completed our business for the evening. It is now in order for a motion to adjourn this redevelopment commission meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make said motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and we are adjourned at 8:12 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for coming.